Levi invited Jesus and his disciples to be his dinner guests, along with fellow tax collectors and many other notorious sinners. There were many people of this kind among the crowds that followed Jesus. It says, but when some of the teachers of religious law, who were Pharisees, saw him eating with the people like that, they said to his disciples, why does he eat with such scum? When Jesus heard this, he told them, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do.
Come on.
I have come to call sinners, not those who think they are already good enough.
All right.
Everybody got that?
Yes.
Okay, so now we're just going to take some time and just walk through this passage and figure out what's going on, what is God trying to communicate to us. So the first thing we're going to do is start back in verse 13. Going back to verse 13, it says, then Jesus went out to the lakeshore again and taught the crowds that gathered around him. So, what did Jesus do? Went out to the lakeshore, taught crowds that are gathered around him. Right? Very simple, we're on the same page. 14, as he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at his tax collection booth. Then he says, come be my disciple, Jesus said to him. So Levi got up and followed him. How you guys feel about that? Ravon? Good? Very simple, right? Or not? Y'all got to talk to me. We're going to be stuck all night. Shocked? Yeah. Now here's the thing. This is what we got to do. We'll go back and read that verse again. As he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector booth. Come be my disciple, Jesus said to him. So Levi got up and followed him. The first thing you got to do is, bless you, the first thing you got to do is understand the context of what's going on. Jesus is standing there and he's teaching people, all these crowds that are gathered around him, he's teaching them. Then he's walking along and he sees a tax collector and he says, hey, you come be my disciple. The guy says, okay, drops everything and goes to follow Jesus. Now you hear that, you think, man, that's kind of crazy that he would just get up and go follow Jesus like that, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of crazy. But what you might not realize is the background to the situation. So the guy is a tax collector. And if you know anything about the Bible and tax collectors, these are the worst type of people on the face of the earth to Jewish people. So let me explain it like this. Everybody in the world is a sinner, right? But these are the worst type of sinners in the eyes of other sinners. So if I can give you an example, think about, I used to work in the sheriff's department. I used to work for LA County, actually. I was at county jail working in there in a gang module. So all of the gang members in Los Angeles County that get locked up will come to my department. That's the department that I ran, right? So when they come in there, they're locked up there. Now these are, again, all of the gang members. So this is the roughest, toughest dudes that live in Los Angeles County that are housed in my department. So I walk down every day and see the worst of the worst of the worst, the murderers, killers, drug dealers, whatever. We'll have to make a rap about that and come and spit it for us, right? But these type of people, these worst of the worst of the worst of the worst type of people, I think I might need to call. Hi, come on in. Hey, friend. How y'all doing? Come on in, jump right in. We are in the book of Mark, chapter 2. Mark chapter 2, verse 14. Mark chapter 2, verse 14. So I'm in this county jail, right, with the worst of the worst of the worst type of people. And why I'm telling you that is because there's a group of people that even they feel like is the worst of the worst of the worst type of people. Which means I cannot allow these people to come into the cell where they are. Does anybody know who those people are? Child molesters, rapists, witches. You telling myself, right? You know, you some talking about yourself already, right? He said, I used to wait when they come in at it, shaking everything. Let them know. Stitches get stitching, right? Let them know already. But if you think about it, because you guys know that, now, but if you just slow down and really think about that, just really, really take the time to think about that. I'm talking about people who just kill people every day because of the color of clothes that they wear, their neighborhood that they're from, or grew up in. They kill these people. Sometimes innocent people get killed. They rob people. They do all. I mean, think about what it's like to kill somebody because of a color, right? So they do that and they feel comfortable with it. But they feel like there's a group of people who are worse than them, that I will kill them if they come in here because they're so bad. Now that's a pretty bad dude over here, right? But they feel like they are the worst type of people. And that's the situation. That's how people in the Jewish culture look at tax collectors. Yeah, we're bad, but tax collectors are the worst of the worst of the worst type of people. Here's why. Rome was controlling everything. You know, you heard about maybe Roman Empire and the stories, how powerful they were. They was running everything, even the Jews. So for us, our context would be similar to white people having slaves, right? They're running stuff. So think in the past, you own slaves, you're running stuff. No, let me do it this way. Let's imagine we went back into slavery tomorrow. Every single one of you is a slave with a master, right? Now, somehow, because my cousin is light-skinned and got colored eyes, he gets to work for master. Not necessarily a house Negro, but he works for them. Like he's one of them almost. That means he will come and snatch your daughter out of her bed to be slept with by master. He is the one that takes the whip for you to get beat with. Now, he is one of us, but he works for them. So imagine what we feel like when he comes into your house to take your child. He's the worst of the worst type of person. Because you're going to say, how could you do that to us? Like, you're one of us, and you're going to do this? Remember we was in Bible study together and all that? Now you want to, just last night, we was hanging out, now you want to come in, you know, you didn't switch stuff like that? Well, that's the situation with this tax collector situation. They're a Jew, and they're taking advantage of other Jews for Rome. So when they come in, when I say taking advantage, I'm talking about taxes. They were taking their money. Now think about how you feel when somebody's taking your money, but when it's one of your own people. So they hated these people. And in this culture, people were very, very, very religious. Very religious. Which makes it that much harder to hang around with somebody like that. You guys know the feeling, right? I mean, I know those of you who do go to church, I know for sure that there's certain people that you don't bring to church with you. Why? Because you already know how people are going to feel. You know, you're like, man, I ain't not coming to church with me. You know, you coming there and this, that, and the other. Because you know how people are going to look at you. Well, that's the same situation that Jesus finds himself in. Now, this is Jesus, right? God himself walking on the earth. And as he's walking on the earth, what happens to him? He ends up coming up on this guy who's not a gang member type of sinner, but a child molester. No. Let's make this man Zimmerman. Let's make him Zimmerman. See, if we make him Zimmerman, now you got to ask yourself, how would you feel, whether you're a Christian or not, how would you feel if you saw Jesus hanging out with Zimmerman? Asking him, hey, would you come be my disciple? Now, a disciple is somebody who's committed to following Jesus. Are they perfect?
No.
How do you know they're not perfect?
Because even his own straight.
There's no perfect man.
Not, okay, that's true. No perfect man. How else could you know that they're not perfect people? From what we read. This is Zimmerman we're talking about. Absolutely. Now, Jesus calls Zimmerman, huh?
Jesus is looking for sinners.
He's looking for them, right? But if Jesus just called somebody who's like Mark Zimmerman, how do you think church people would feel today?
Some people will leave the church.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? Just be real. If you be 100, you're like, I'm not, hey, I can't, I'm not going. If this dude's going to be in here worshiping too, right? After what he's done. But Jesus doesn't say, oh, I forgive you. He says, hey, I want you to come be my disciple. But he's not just any disciple. This is one of the dudes that's going to help start the church. He's one of the leaders. There is no such thing as church at this point. There's no church until Jesus goes back to heaven. So right now, Jesus is getting people to build the church. And the person he calls is a Mark Zimmerman. And he says, hey, I want to use you to build the church.
God calls any and everybody.
Absolutely. And I say that because of the context of what I'm trying to do. See, I'm in the process of starting the church. because God wants me to. But I ask you guys, so who does God want me to call to help me start it? Sinners, right? So this is the one. So right now, see, I just set y'all up. See, y'all are part of church now. Y'all ready? Come on, we got work to do. Y'all already agreed. Right? Y'all on the same page. So that's the truth of the situation. So Jesus calls this Mark Zimmerman of a person to come be his follower, to come help him establish the church. Now let's continue reading and see what happens. So let's pick back up on 14 so we go back over that. It says, as he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at his tax collection booth. Come, be my disciple, Jesus said to him. Levi got up and followed him. I just want to touch on that real quickly, because one of the things that you notice is that when he called him, what did he do? He got up and followed him. Now that's so important, because think about what he had to feel like being called by Jesus. Think about what you would feel like right now if I told you, hey, let's go, we got to help get the church together. What would you feel like? Are you ready for that?
No.
No? I mean, y'all ready? I mean, y'all ready? It's cool. Let's do it. We're doing it already. Look, this is the first step.
I'm ready.
You see what I'm saying? But what you got, think about when you live, okay. This is a different type of church. So here's what I'm saying. Those of you who more than likely will leave here tonight and go do something that you know God doesn't approve of. With drugs or alcohol or sex or cheating or scamming or lying or stealing or who knows what. The reality is, it's a whole lot of us in this room that are doing it. And at this church, I'm not here to judge you. My point is just this. Because you know what you do that God doesn't approve of, if and when he calls you to come follow him, that will be the reason why you won't. Whatever the sin is that you're struggling with, that's going to be the thing that makes you say, I'm not ready. Right? How many people, maybe some of you, have friends that won't come to church until they get themselves together? Right? Because you feel like, I will follow Jesus when I get myself together. Is that what Jesus is doing?
No, it's not. That's not what you want. No, no.
All the way backwards, right? He's saying, I'm coming for you while you're at your worst point, and then telling you to come follow me. So already you have to begin to rethink what church is and how church works. You should leave here tonight thinking absolutely different about church. You should say, church is a place where people who are horribly stuck in all types of sin that you cannot even imagine come and start following Jesus overnight. Not because they're perfect, not because they're stopped sinning, but because he's called them. And they choose to say, I will follow. Okay, let me break it out another way. He's a tax collector. You know what that means? He makes a lot of money. He takes a portion. Okay, I'm planting a church. This is a box for anybody. I'm not asking you guys to give nothing. If you want to, I'd be thankful. But this is a box for you to put money in. Now imagine if I had the power to walk through and take a percentage of everybody's money in here. How much money would I have?
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what he does. So he is balling. Out of control, right?
Yeah.
But he walks away from it all. Do you see any hesitation or anything? Now there is passages. Some of you might know them where Jesus' own people say, hold on, wait, first let me go, let me go do some stuff and this, that, and the other. This situation is not that. He's willing to follow God just the way he is as a sinner, but he walks away from everything. Now, isn't that hard to do? I mean, come on. I mean, even for it's hard for me to follow Planet Church. I've been a Christian and I'm still, man, I don't know about what it's going to be like. It's going to be tough, I mean, just being real. So to walk away from all that is so difficult. I just want you guys to see that God understands that. Do you think God would come to a person who's struggling with sin and who has all this money and ask them to follow him and he wouldn't think it would be difficult? I mean, let's get in the mind of God. Why would he even choose that person? Anybody got an answer for that? Like God is trying to get a group of people to plant a church. Why would he go get Mark Zimmerman?
Because if he can get the easiest person to believe, he wants the
That's a whole
person that
bunch of answers.
doesn't
Hold
believe.
on. You go ahead.
Because the person that really believes, they'll just follow. To the people that don't, and they see stuff like that, it's like, how can you forgive a man that's done so bad, but yet you take him in and, and treat him like your own? Well, for the people that have done what he's done, they'd be like, well, if he can do it, I can.
That's it. If Mark Zimmerman is the pastor, I think you feel like you can attend church. Right? I mean, you feel okay going. Yeah, I mean, if he can go, I'm good. I'm sitting on the front row, right? I'm going to be a deacon or something, right? I'm going to have some type of position. Well, that's the situation. And I just want you guys to see that. So we're going to move on. Everybody okay? You follow me? Right here? Okay. Moving on now, looking at verse 15. It says, that night Levi invited Jesus and his disciples to be his dinner guests, along with fellow tax collectors and many other notorious sinners. Right? Then it says, there were many people of this kind among the crowds that followed Jesus. So somebody tell me what's happening.
It was like a setup, kind
Say more.
of. Well, I mean, it's just like if you have a party and you know that you follow God, you attend church regularly, you made changes in your life, and you want people who aren't doing so well, who are sinners, who aren't doing good, you want to invite them to that party, to be around those type of people, people like you, and people that are, because you want them to see. You want people to, in your likeness. So you want to bring them into something, that you're doing. That's good.
That's exactly what happened. So you have this Zimmerman character. That's what we're going to call him, right? You have Zimmerman. But he throws a party and he goes and gets Osama bin Laden. He goes and gets Hitler. He goes and gets all the notorious sinners he can find. And they are the ones that's at the house partying. And Jesus comes to the party. I could do that all night, just talking about him attending the party with all those type of people, which is crazy enough, but y'all can get that self-explanatory. What is he doing at a house with these type of people? Now, we'll get there. If I can do it, I don't want to keep y'all too long, and I just want to move along, but you see the type of people he's hanging around, right? It says, these people, this stuff is too good. Preach. Okay, it says, look, there were many people of this kind among the crowds that followed Jesus. That says that there were many people who were the worst type of sinners that followed Jesus. So ask yourself, what is it about Jesus that made them comfortable enough to come to him? Like, why would tons of sinners feel so comfortable being around here?
Because he wasn't judging them.
Okay, and if Jesus establishes a church, which represents him, why aren't sinners today just as comfortable coming to church?
Because everybody's judging.
Everybody judges us. Right.
But if the church is Jesus' representation in the world today, and if you are a sinner during his time, you feel comfortable going to be with him. You don't have any worries. Hold on. Listen. There were many people of this kind among the crowds who followed Jesus. Many of them. This is tons of sinners who feels comfortable being with Jesus. My question is, if they were comfortable being around Jesus, why aren't they comfortable coming to church?
Because there's no church like that.
Well, we're trying to establish one.
I know. I'm just saying, but
No,
there is
I'm
none.
not correcting. I'm just saying that is what this is about.
Yeah,
We're
because
trying to establish a place where those
any
type of
church
people
that you
feel
go
comfortable.
into, it seems that it's not the members of the church necessarily, but it always seems to be the older crowd of the church, the minister, the deacons, the deaconesses, not the ushers. They do judge, and it's wrong, and you feel like that, so you'd rather not go into the house, but you would rather walk on the street and follow somebody opposed to coming inside.
You're right. But here's the thing. We're not going to put it just on older people or certain positions, or we're going to, what I'm going to say is I'm going to put it on myself and people who play my role as a pastor.
Okay.
That's whose responsibility it is. Because it's the leader's responsibility to teach what Jesus taught and to create environments that reflect what Jesus did when he was here. So if Jesus wanted sinners to come to him, the church should be calling those same type of people and should set up environments and places where people feel comfortable with that. We're going to leave it right there because it's their responsibility to do what I'm doing and teach what God has said. So we'll just draw the line right there and say all of us are flawed and make many mistakes, and everybody judges. Everybody does.
Everyone has their own interpretation of what they believe church should be. So
Exactly.
that's the problem.
And they do this stuff. So all we try to do is come back to what Jesus really said. And we're walking through it. So we see that he came to this party. He's there, he's doing this thing, all the sinners are there. Verse 16 says, so he's at the house room with all these sinners. Verse 16 says, but when some of the teachers of religious law, who were Pharisees, saw